Hi, this is Lahav Harkov. I'm live from Moscow with Knesset speaker Yuli Edelstein. In a moment, I'll turn the camera around on him. We are in Moscow right now, where Edelstein became the first Israeli official to give a speech to the Russian parliament. A moment made all the more historic by the fact that Edelstein was a refusnik, a prisoner of Zion who was sent to the Gulag for teaching Hebrew. And yesterday he spoke Hebrew with a kippah on his head before the Russian parliament. So, Knesset Speaker Edelstein, it must have been a very emotional moment. How did it feel?
First of all, I can't deny that it was an emotional moment. I delivered all kinds of speeches, including in parliaments, and still it's different. And that's why I chose to speak Hebrew and to address the exact very issue that you raised in your forward here. I was arrested here and sentenced here for teaching Hebrew and learning Hebrew. And yesterday I decided to start addressing the Russian parliament in Hebrew. It was definitely closing the circle. And I do have to say that it's not only my personal feeling. I think that all those involved 30, 40 years ago in what was called Soviet Jewry movement, from messages I get from them, mails, messengers, phone calls, they all feel that it's their victory, and rightly so. They feel that their fight was a historic victory that enabled me today, yesterday actually, to stand in front of the Russian parliament and address them in Hebrew and get an applause for my Hebrew speech.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday you told an interesting story about a Swedish Jewish activist who came to interview you. I think Jerusalem Post readers would be interested in hearing it again, if you could tell it.
Yeah, we were next to the apartment where I lived with my family and where the drugs were found by the KGB during a search in the apartment. And the search that went on for several hours Friday night was suddenly interrupted by a knock on the door, and they didn't let me, the KGB, the police, they didn't let me obviously to open the door. They opened the door and I managed to look outside and see a couple of foreign tourists. One couldn't make a mistake those days, but those people were not Soviet citizens, with heavy bags, sports bags on their shoulders, and it was for us quite obvious that they were carrying all kinds of teaching materials, tapes, stuff for us to use as Hebrew teachers or to spread around. And it was quite a scene. And I started shouting in English, "Get out of here, this is a search, I'm Yuli Edelstein, they're all KGB, don't talk to them." And the scene was really like a scene from the movie. Everyone was just, in the first place, no one would let them in normally, but the police officer who was standing downstairs was embarrassed, I guess, and couldn't contact them because obviously police officers didn't speak foreign languages, and the KGB were totally unprepared for that situation, so they just let them go. I gave a sigh of relief after I saw that they left, and I didn't know what happened further, but 2 hours later or an hour later there was another knock on the door. And the same people were there without the heavy bags, and they came to save me. They wanted to save that refusnik that they were supposed to visit. They had been instructed to visit. I met them next day. I was not immediately arrested after the search. I met them next day and they said, yeah, we went back to the hotel. We hid all the stuff that we carried. We just took our passports and we went back to see that you're okay. And, you know, it was hard to believe because even people living in the Soviet Union were scared of the KGB and the police, to say nothing about a foreigner. When I spoke as a speaker of the Knesset during my official visit to Stockholm in 2014, I told that story to the Jewish community. And all of a sudden, one of those who were sitting in the audience, it was a Shabbat dinner actually, approached me and said, I'm one of those two people, I guess look different, you can't recognize me. And it's quite an emotional experience. I told you that story where it all happened by the apartment in Moscow.
So after we saw the outside of your apartment your former apartment in Moscow, we visited the court where you were sentenced and the prison where you spent a few months before being sent out to labor camps. And people really rolled out the red carpet for you. Everything was sort of cleaned up, and you were given very special treatment. That must have been surreal for you. What was it like?
Absolutely surreal. Oh, I'm happy I contributed, I guess, to better life of prisoners in Butyrka prison.
Yeah.
Everything was so clean and no smell and whatever. But the surrealistic part was that we are actually standing in those very places where it all happened. And it was the difference being like what I told you in front of my cell there, cell 138 in the Butyrka prison, that right there they found the tefillin that I had in the cell, and right there on that very spot on the corridor I was trying to get my tefillin back and was beaten and sent to isolation cell for 10 days. And he was standing there, as you mentioned, with, well, not literally red carpet, but something reminding red carpet, and with all the bosses of that system going out of their way to please me and make the visit possible, and with presents from that prison, and you think to yourself, it's not just surrealistic. You know, so many people said to me that I started really feeling it. It's a victory. It's totally different. It is a victory, and everybody asked me, so did they apologize? Did they tell you that they were sorry? Did they ask for your forgiveness? I don't need it. I think that the very fact that I'm here as the speaker of the Israeli Knesset on an official visit with the speech to the parliament that you mentioned, received by all the VIPs in this country, what could someone's apology add to that? I think that in my eyes the apology is the fact that I am where I am. It's better than apology. It's a victory, as I've said.
Sorry, I've been told the sound's not so clear, so I'm going to move a little closer. Hopefully this will be better. Okay, so you were saying you don't need an official apology, but on the other hand, there's been a deterioration in the status of human rights here in Russia. Is there something that you, as a former, someone whose human rights were very much violated in the Soviet Union, and someone who clearly is very much respected here, is there something that you've been able to say on those topics while you're here?
No, actually, we're discussing, the issue of anti-Semitism, the issue of Holocaust remembrance, but not the issue of human rights here in Russia. And I'm here to represent the state of Israel, and we always think about the fate of the Jewish community. So I would mention one fact. There is a huge difference. There is a huge difference. And it's not the difference of the type that we were discussing in prison. I remember the cell was 40 prisoners, and here we are in the same cell with 20 prisoners. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something else. I'm talking about the open borders. And I want to remind our viewers and listeners right now that I was not trying to be a hero who overthrows the Soviet regime. I hated that regime passionately. But the only thing I wanted was to leave and come to Israel and become an Israeli. And today everyone can do so. And not just Jews. It's an open border. And I think that this is a difference that we always have to keep in mind, because this is something that sometimes people tend to forget.
If we're talking about Russia, in 2017, Russia and Israel have a lot of disagreements on issues that are very important to Israel's national security, and yet relations seemed very warm this week. How do you explain that, and how are you sort of dealing with those issues?
Dealing is the right word, because let's not be just, carried away by the smiles and the welcome and the red carpet. I think that we have serious issues on the agenda. The situation in Syria is in a very bad shape, and Israel has its own red lines, and it's not a secret that we can't tolerate neither the shooting from the Syrian side into Israeli territory, and we are reacting the way we should, and we definitely can't tolerate the presence of Hezbollah or Iran in this or that form there, or of dangerous weapons. And we are trying to discuss that with the Russian leadership here. We don't necessarily see eye to eye, and well, I'm not supposed to agree with the Russians on the issue of Assad, and I'm not supposed definitely to agree with them on the issue of Iran, and they don't agree with me on many things in our position. But once again, it's a huge difference. 67, they just cut off all the relations with Israel, including diplomatic relations, and there was no possibility for a dialogue. Now there's a possibility for discussions, for a dialogue, for strategic discussions. The army is trying to coordinate immediate issues. It's our task to coordinate issues armies can't coordinate, meaning not just some immediate tactical lack of clash, prevention of clash, but what's going to happen next, what the map will look like in half a year, in a year from now, and I'm very glad that I have this opportunity to explain our position, and yes, including our red lines to our Russian counterparts.
Okay. It's been a very tense week for Israel and diaspora relations. And you're the former diaspora minister. What are your thoughts on the freezing of the compromise for the Kotel to expand the egalitarian section?
I think that I wouldn't surprise you if I would say that I'm very worried by the fact that A, it's a tense week, and B, that there's no dialogue. I mean, two monologues is not a dialogue. And I think that we all have to calm down and get back to the table and restart the discussions. If, first of all, I supported the previous decision worked out by Nathan Sharansky and many others on what kind of compromise or what the compromise should look like on the Western Wall and the Kotel. But presumably people want to rediscuss something or to change something. Okay, there's a way to do that. And I think that we just can't afford the situation where Israeli Jews won't be talking to diaspora Jews, or Israeli leadership won't be talking to diaspora leadership. And one good news is, and I'm trying to explain it to my Orthodox and ultra-Orthodox friends in Israel, especially in Israeli politics, the good news is that we don't have to compromise on our values or our mitzvot or our way of life. That I wouldn't be prepared to do for the sake of anything. I hope that after yesterday, people understand even better that I was not prepared to compromise under very difficult circumstances. That's not what is in need or is demanded. We have to find some technical political solution for the issue. And I think that we must do it. It's our duty.
In some ways, it seems like the issue with the Kotel is that at the end of the day, the people who seem to care the most about the egalitarian section don't have the vote in Israel. They don't live in Israel. And at the end of the day, it's the voters who win because the politicians need to be able to have a coalition and run the country. Is this a problem that can ever really be solved? It seems like the distance between those two things is growing wider all the time.
Well, let's be brutally honest. There are some issues that even I myself said to my friends, I'm not saying friends in common, to my friends from the diaspora, including from the Reform and Conservative movement, that, I said, with all due respect, you want to change that? Come to Israel, vote, you'll have your own faction, your own party, and you'll be able to change things. This is not the issue. The Western Wall, the Kotel, belongs to all the Jewish people, and you know what? In a wider sense of the word, to all the religions. So we have to stick to our values. I'm an Orthodox Jew, and I will pray there in an egalitarian minyan. But at the same time, to allow all the others to approach the Kotel and pray there. You know what? I guess some won't like what I'm going to say, but if it were not for the big scandal and for this whole tension, and if this section would have appeared, I think that we won't be witnessing millions of Jews praying there. It will just be a place where some groups can come and pray and touch the wall, and that's it. It's not that it would turn into another source of tension all the time, and the Orthodox and the non-Orthodox will be fighting each other because of this very fact that you mentioned. Most of people whom it's important don't even live in Israel. So if and when they would be visiting, they would know that there is a place for them to come and kiss the kotel and touch it and pray, which is a good thing. So I really think that it's an unnecessary scandal, and trying to put some limits to yourself is also very important in politics, because the wheel turns. Today you are very influential, and tomorrow you'll be in the opposition watching the others doing the same things the other way around. So we have to be calm on these issues.
All right. Thank you very much for answering our questions and for bringing us along on this historic trip.
Thank you.